Welcome everyone to the Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 till 9 to help small businesses. I'm Patrice, and I'm super excited to be your host today as we celebrate our 50th Ask the Expert as a live show. Ask any questions in the comments or hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and businesses experts on hand to help 24/7. QuickBooks also have a dedicated COVID-19 information site, so just go to the QuickBooks website, scroll down a little bit, click on the big Learn More button under the header Support for You and Your Business During COVID-19. So agenda for today really is I'll give a little introduction about me, maybe a couple of case studies about some things you might find of interest, and then we'll take some questions. But before I sort of talk about me, the overall thing I want to be talking about today is how certainly we work as tech experts, as tech partners to small businesses with the aim to create a return on investment from technology. And time and again, I see people not doing that. So that's something I'm very hot on and very focused on. And there's different ways to do this, which I'd love to share and discuss with you guys. In terms of background, so as a sort of couple of minutes, my background is not that of technologist. My first career was very much in investment banking and private equity, where it's all about helping buy businesses, scale them, financially re-engineer them, operationally transform them, and then sell them for more money. So my background is very much in business. And when I approach technology, it's a mindset that I have, which is there's got to be a return on investment. Because if there isn't, why are we even doing this? You know, it's a vanity project. So that was my first career. And I kind of started changing things when the previous financial crisis, let's call it the one of 07, 08, happened, because I think sadly we're about to enter the next financial crisis, the next crisis, which makes this what we're talking about doubly important, because there's a lot of things we can do to protect our businesses, but also take advantage of some opportunities. So for me in 07, 08, I started thinking, what's life all about? You know, is it about doing finance or is it about doing something I'm enjoying? And I started doing some startups. So I did initially a little fashion brand. Then I did a peer-to-peer lending platform I got involved in. Then I was involved in an e-commerce platform. Lots of learning by doing. A couple of Kickstarter projects. Some did okay, some went nowhere, but lots of learning by doing. And I carried on doing this on the side of my day job until child number one arrived 8 years ago. And that was a real seminal moment where for me, I realized that what I was passionate about was building technology-led businesses. And that's what I should be doing, not working in finance. No offense to finance, it was a good industry back then. So I quit with a new child and just a dream and no idea per se exactly what I was going to do. Fast forward 8 years, what we do now, so I guess the purpose of this is we work with everything from early stage entrepreneurs with an idea, to take them through a process of validating the idea, creating a prototype of that to do some user testing and validation. So trying to focus people on spending as little money as possible before they build technology to validate the concept and make sure it makes sense to their users, not to them and their close friends who love them dearly, but to their potential users and people who will be paying money for this service. So we work, so early stage entrepreneurs. Then the idea is to build an MVP, so minimum viable product, so the first version of the software, maybe help them fundraise and then scale their idea into a commercially viable business. We also do that with startups, so to really help them scale. And a big focus we have is on SMEs, where you have a business that's going, you have existing clients and users, you have already some technology stack and things that you do, but there's a big opportunity to help in terms of, so it could be conversion and optimization. So how do we look at your funnel and how do we optimize it? It could be automation internally within your business. And I'll give a couple of examples of some case studies we've done. I can't go into details for confidentiality. But also with SMEs, we're like running tests. So you've got an existing core business. Well, once you look at this opportunity here, run some tests with your existing customer base and see if you can generate additional income, a new revenue channel maybe. So if I go into maybe a first example, so, and just say my main business is called IP Ventures and its tech partners. We also work with some major corporations in terms of innovation, but it's a lot less fun than working with SMEs because there's a lot of layers with large businesses in terms of getting decisions made and working with them as a service provider. So if I give an example of a first example, so around conversion optimization. So one of our clients is a company that started as a cafe, and what they did during the crisis is they had a small e-commerce store, but they shifted to selling a lot more online. So they saw the opportunity, and it's Scandinavian food related, and they decided, look, we're going to sell a lot more online. They've done really well, but what they realized and brought us in for is, if you think about a funnel being the first time somebody hears of you, all the way through to somebody's an ambassador for your brand, that's a true user journey. Technology is an enabler in the middle of that. But what I like to look at is from that first interaction to that last interaction, hopefully not last interaction, what are the different steps along the way that you can tweak, you can improve. So for them, it's an e-commerce store. So you've got the acquisition, so people go onto the store, look at things. So what can you do to optimize that? Well, with them, there was quite a lot of user experience things that could be improved because they actually made it difficult for shoppers to buy from them. It sounds really silly, but the shopping cart, I struggle to purchase from it. So first thing we did was start looking at how do we optimize a shopping cart so the conversion goes up. So at the moment, that's an experiment that's running. I don't have the data, but it's looking promising already. Another thing that we've been doing is looking at the abandoned carts. I know that's quite e-com specific, but abandoned cart is somebody puts something in the cart, doesn't complete that transaction, maybe because the shopping cart was too difficult. And we've managed to increase by 100%, improve by 100% the completion, which for them is massively meaningful and achieves one of my key purposes, which is making a return on investment. So they spend money on us to do that. Within a month, they've done a return on investment already. So everything else going forward is additional profits for them. When we put online this shopping cart, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a lovely, profitable piece of work for them. And that, to me, is the benchmark that we need to have as technology partners is how do we make you more money? Because that's the only way we're going to keep working together and building a brilliant business for you. A second example, so if we're thinking, so less e-commerce, more internal, at the times we have now, it's a question of saying, how do we reduce costs? Previous example was they have the same number of customers coming in every day. How do we make more money from that? This example is you have a team that's working, you have different systems, software, and processes. How do we effectively automate different facets and maybe get some different bits of software talking? So, for example, if you have an inquiry on your contact us form on your website, what happens with that? Well, what happens for some people is they'll go in, they'll respond, they'll write something. Just that interaction's 5 minutes. Now, ideally, they've plugged it into the CRM, so automatically that's a lead that's captured and can be tracked and monitored over time. But other time they don't even do that because somebody's job to do that, and the balls might get dropped. What you could do is have an automatic system that as soon as somebody inquires within a contact us form, it automatically puts that contact in the CRM. It automatically sends a pre-populated message. So this isn't anything drastic, right? It's pretty basic stuff, but it's to explain also the possible generally with automation. Also, on top of that, if they respond, you could have automatic system that effectively says within the way the system tracks leads, this person has moved from just contacted to has responded. And the system could then automatically trigger a few actions. A few actions could be getting in touch with a salesperson to say this person is actually interested in that. Maybe if we build the system cleverly, it could understand more about their user automatically again, based on some of the interactions they've had with our website. So we can take some data about what that person's done on the website, feed that data to the salesperson. So when they have their first phone call, they already know a lot about how to convert that lead into a sale. And to me, that's a really nicely done system. You might be able to minimize costs. I know some of us have staff on furlough still, not for too long. Things are changing, and maybe we're finding it a bit more difficult to follow the normal processes. But maybe that means what we should be doing is maybe automating some of those processes. So a second example, excuse me, and the third example I wanted to give is I see a lot of businesses looking to effectively create new ventures, maybe within their existing business. So maybe they have an idea. We do this currently, but once we do this bit as well. A lot of the issues about moving from here to there in their mind is the cost of the technology. And what we like to think about is, how about we reduce that down, we simplify it, and just say, does this idea make sense? Can we validate with potential users, potential buyers, and can we run some tests around that? Excuse me. And what that means is, we all have assumptions about what people want, but if we forget building technology, and sometimes we refuse to build technology with clients until they've done this, just go and run some focus groups, some one-on-one user interviews about your idea. Really understand if it's enough of a pain point for potential users. If you've done that successfully and you're getting some good feedback, that's the first check. Then you go to the next stage, which could be maybe graphically design what the thing you want to build is going to look like, and put into a prototype. So there's tools we use that effectively link up the different screens, and it looks and feels like an app or a website, whatever you wanted to build. And what you do with that is you go back and you go and speak to some people again. You say, this thing looks like this, it works like this. You told me before that you had this pain point. Does this answer your pain point? And you're going to learn so much by doing that. I mean, there's some studies that suggest that just speaking to 5 people in this way will give you 80% of the feedback you would have gotten from building the whole thing. So think about the potential savings. So doing that, get some feedback. You probably have to iterate that prototype slightly, speak to them again, and you have a very good understanding of actually what people will want. And that's only when you should be building the technology. I mean, we actually go a step further and say, let's build a low-code version of that technology, which is more about taking together different components, existing themes of websites, of hacking them slightly together to create a working version for a closed beta of users. So that means effectively, 100 closed customers that we know and trust. And we're going to say, look, would you mind helping us with this? It's something that's never going to launch, but the prototype is probably £3,000 to do, or the graphic design, sure, etc. This thing is maybe £10,000 to do, but the amount of value on the feedback you get is worth 10 times that. Because if you just do that low-code version, have a working version of it that's just cobbled together, it's not the final product, you'll then know exactly what people will pay for. Your whole business case is done. And if you have to spend 20, 40, 50, 100 grand building the proper big version of that dream you had, you're doing it in a way that's completely de-risked, because you already have your clients lined up. You've got product market fit. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that phrase, product market fit, which is essential. And so you're in a good place. So from our side, we're doing that at the moment with a couple of businesses. One of which is a GDPR related one, and the other is a health and safety one. So I'm just some questions coming through. So just looking at that briefly. Okay, some questions coming through. So I'm going to shut up and answer those. But we're doing this at the moment with a couple which are client projects, and some of which are own. Because the final thing I want to say about Happy Ventures is we're practitioners, not theorists. We do this. We're entrepreneurs and business owners, not just an agency. I hate the term agency. Okay. Anyway, so questions. All right. So quite a few. Anika from Twitter, direct message. Hello, Patrice. When helping businesses, what is the first thing you evaluate when looking to help them? That's a really good question. So I think there's two sides to that. One is, it's really important to understand the users. Um, and so, well, yeah, two things really. It's understanding the users, what their pain points are, what they look for, what they think, and what they think of the current solution that that business is offering. And I go back to this analogy of the true user journey, which is somebody's never heard of you to somebody's an ambassador for your brand, and every single step along the way. Um, my ideal world is using this lovely huge whiteboard behind me and working with the client to sort of really map that out and understand their users, the user journeys, and where technology sits currently and where technology could sit and provide that return on investment. I hope that answers the question, Anika. Jamie from Twitter, direct message. We are fleshing out one of our design ideas for an online closed store. How do we best map out the user journey? User journey coming up again. So how do we best map out the user journey? I think in many ways, that might be a question that we could take offline, and I can show you. I think might be the best way to do that. But the user journeys, I'm going to go back to that. The technology piece in the middle is an enabler within a longer user journey. So there's a user journey that's literally somebody's landed on your website, they press sign up, how do you onboard them? But there's a longer piece about how they come into you in that first place. If we're thinking about tools to map out user journeys, I would say use something like Miro, M-I-R-O. That's a very good one. And you can really do sort of a virtual whiteboard and sort of create that user journey. What I would also do to sort of help is probably look at yourself the top three in your mind most successful online closed stores and look at how they do that user journey. Now, a lot of them will be pretty plain vanilla, but it might also be useful then to look at something not at all in your industry. That's frankly, if you search best user journey website or something like that, look at something completely different from a different industry and think, how do they do it? And try and bring across some of those learnings. I hope that helps. Harper from Facebook. I want to make a splash with any business I go into. Yeah, I echo that thought. What would you say is hot right now that you're seeing in terms of business ideas? Is there a particular sector proving to be popular? I would be remiss not to talk about COVID-19, but not just COVID-19, but I think the new way of working. And I have no idea about what's going to happen. All I know is it's been a huge shift, and people have really gone from, organizations have gone from true digital transformation, remote working, all that is 8 years away, or 4 to 8 years away. That's something I was reading about yesterday. And it's been done in 8 weeks. People have really become accustomed to working remotely. Now, I think if you start with that strand and build from there, you're going to have a lot of interesting thoughts about all the different areas it touches. Because what does that touch? It touches so things like this, Zoom, right? So people are working increasingly from Zoom, fine. But how about the fact that we're all social animals? We want to talk to one another. Okay, so we might need a way to sort of meet remotely more frequently. So people are solving that by doing Zoom calls with their families. But with co-workers, how do you create, a social experience, maybe around different rooms, so you can go for a coffee break with friends and do like that. So I think that's an industry that there's some bits that exist, but nobody's really done it properly. Something else that it also stems from, if we think about remote workers, well, you're going to need to meet up. Okay, so Twitter were the first to say, we're not going to have any offices going forward. But I guarantee you, they'll take some of the office budget and they'll put that in a meetup budget, because we need to meet face-to-face periodically. There may be, sadly, insurance reasons why we can't meet, because there may be too high risk for COVID-19 or stuff like that, which saddens me. But I think there's something to be said about a business that helps people meet up. That'd be great. So it could be like, let's all go to Mexico for a week, and you know what? We have budgets saved from the offices. I could go on about this all day because I love that topic, and we're currently exploring a couple of things. One in health and safety and risk management, for example, and some Amazon products and some other things which are related to that. So I think we can maybe chat more offline. Hope that's helpful, Harper. Ryan from Twitter, hi there, Patrice. We're an established organization that deals with online marketing techniques. It's very competitive. So I'm wondering if you have any tips, resources for staying ahead of the fast-moving tech curve. That's a good question. I think it is very competitive, and I think there's staying ahead of the fast-moving tech curve. I mean, I do this full time, right? I'm meant to be the technology expert, and I say the word "I'm meant to," because if I spend all day reading about technology, I would just about catch up with what's going on. I believe that what you need to do as much as possible is just get involved in building. So I like this expression. There's theorists who are writing about the art of the possible, and that's lovely and good to learn from. And I have a couple of trusted people I look at and read. So I try to minimize the amount I read, but just maximize the quality of it. And then I like to spend more time actually trying to problem solve and understand by doing in terms of technology. So for example, we did a few years back a augmented reality app. It was cutting edge at the time, and we just wanted to try it. So one of our clients was interested, and we worked with them. We learned. So I find learning by doing is probably going to be the best way. But I don't think you can ever be ahead of the curve in terms of catching up with technology. But staying aware is important. I hope that answers the question. Matt from Facebook, we're a newly established app for business people wanting to connect with each other when out on business trips. I have heard that idea before. I don't know if I've met you before, Matt. We found that lead generation is slow. This may be due to obvious reasons of COVID-19. So I'm wondering, what would you advise in order to ramp up leads and therefore conversions? Great question, because I talk about this all the time with early stage startups. To me, even before building the technology, what I would do is I would look at your routes to market. Because what I tend to find is, this is a whiteboard moment, but I shall stop myself. What I tend to find is people will focus 100% on their product, right? If this is your product here and your customers are over here, I call this a highway of clients, or on a highway of lots of clients, people tend to spend all their time on their product. If they're good, they might go and speak to some of the customers, but really they're spending the time on the product, which may be what you've done there. Because what they want to do after is launch. So they finish the product, they launch, ta-da! Nobody cares because nobody's heard of them. No offense. Because what most people want to do, and what you hear in most marketing campaigns is, then what you do is you'll do a Facebook strategy or AdWords strategy, or you'll try and do some guest posting and SEO. I almost frankly want to refuse doing these businesses until we found a strategic partner that's got access to all these clients. So for you, for example, business people wanting to connect with each other whilst on business trips, what I would do, so it's too late to do it before you built it. It sounds like you've built it, but good on you for doing that. I would go and find strategic partners. I'll give you an example of one. It may be Marriott Hotel, the chain of hotels. They've actually got an accelerator, I think, or incubator. And what they're looking for is technology to help within hotels. Now, a lot of business people will go to the Marriott. Wouldn't it be nice for them, the Marriott, to offer a solution for people to mingle and network? So you know what? If I meet some cool people, do some business through your app at the Marriott, I'll only want to stay at the Marriott with this app. So the point I'm making is look for strategic partners, build relationship with, we call them the multipliers. So a relationship with this one person will give me access to 1,000 people. So that would be my suggestion. Move away from ramping up leads, all that. If you can, go for the big winners who, big partners who have an important interest in you and what you do, because it's helping their business. So it's about what you can do for them. I hope that answered the question, but really happy to chat more about it because it's a really important one. Jamel from Facebook. Hi, Patrice. Thank you for this far. I'm glad you like it. We have a new idea for a business in the e-commerce industry, but do not yet have a prototype as such. What are the risks of not having a prototype beforehand? It's a good question. So if I go back to what I mentioned early on, I have a whole course on Udemy about ideas and sort of validating ideas. But to me, once you've validated your idea that you're happy with it, you've done some user interviews, it makes a lot of sense to effectively um, just go a step further. So for me, it is building that prototype so that, because there's a difference between me saying, I have this idea, it's going to work a bit like this, it's going to do that, it's going to do that. So what I'm asking users to do is understand the words I'm saying, paint a picture in their head about what it's going to look like, how it's going to work, and get feedback. And then on the other side, you're receiving words, translating into what you want it to mean, and feedback on that. So a prototype, which is nothing more than the first step of building that app anywhere, or that e-commerce store, or that website, it shows visually what you're talking about. So it transforms the conversation from imagine this to let's look at this specifically. Now, you've told me you like this and you have this pain point. Let's look at this specifically and get some proper feedback. So what I suggest is, ideally, if you're serious about the idea, do the prototype, because you know what? If you're going to build this, you're going to need designs anyway. So you might as well slow down on the building side, because that's where the real cost is. Focus on the designs, package it up as a prototype, get yourself out there, talk to people. It's uncomfortable, but it's the reason some businesses succeed and others fail by doing that. I hope that helps. And again, delighted to chat about that. I think it's an important step that if you get this right, it will really help your business. And it's all about return on investment, right? The return on investment on this is huge, because either it will stop you from doing the idea because people generally say, it just doesn't work. Or it will really help you because you'll tailor the MVP, so the minimum viable product, to be correct. Okay, so last 3 minutes really, so we're nearly running out of time. I'll just do a last question from Kira on Twitter. How in depth do Appy Ventures go when looking at business model? What are the main elements you focus on? It's almost like somebody planted that question. I like it. It's building on the previous question from Jamel about, you've done the process and you're going for a prototype. I think the first step with an idea is looking at a lean canvas. Lean canvas. So I think if you go to lean canvas, or just Google lean canvas, or you can go to leanstack.com. They've got a nice solution on there. I don't believe in spending tons of time on creating a beautiful business plan with 40 pages and stuff like that. I have a sort of investor deck template, and that's about 10 slides. I have a lean canvas, that's one page with 8 different points. I encourage you to look at that, because that will actually condense all your thinking into one place, and you'll be able to understand the business better. So spend less time on that, more time on testing the concept. Again, happy to chat some more. I need to wrap up, so I am going to say thank you for QuickBooks for hosting this. Any questions, get in touch with the QuickBooks support team on Facebook, or you can get in touch with myself on www.appyventures.com or Patrice at appyventures.com, appyventures.com. So coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Judith Dugdale, who heads up the digital solutions team at MHA Moore and Smalley. She works with owner-managed businesses across the Northwest, and her clients range in size and complexities from new startups to established and growing businesses across a multitude of sectors. So make sure you tune in tomorrow and get free advice from a cloud-based growth accountant. I like that, growth accountant. A reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. So there's accountants and experts on hand 24/7. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe.